like to call the meeting to order. You all please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So good evening, everyone. This business meeting is being held both in person and virtually through Zoom in compliance with RSU number 38 policy BED, remote participation in school board meetings. The meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the maranacook.org YouTube channel. Please be aware that during the course of this meeting, the microphones of the viewing audience will be muted except during the identified portions of the public comments at this meeting. For today's agenda, this is number 3. This is also a budget meeting, and public comment on budget items may be given at number 6F. If you would like to speak during the public comment times, please use the chat feature to signal Mrs. McGregor, and she will communicate with me. In-person speakers, please sign up on the clipboard by the door. All individuals that wish to speak, whether in person or virtual, please identify yourself with your first and last name and the town you live in. Please note that individuals that do not live in our member communities may or may not be granted permission to speak at the discretion of the board chair. We also ask that speakers limit their individual comments to 2 minutes, and if someone speaks ahead of you that has a similar view, please reference their comment. We thank you in advance for constructive comments.
Attendance and all votes will be done through roll call. So when your name is called, please cast your vote with the 3 available options of yes, approve, no, disapprove, or abstain. So we are going to proceed directly to roll call. Please make sure that your audio is functioning and everyone can confirm that they hear each other, whether you're virtually or in person. Kim Bowie is absent today. Dave Gilmay.
Here.
Jade Parker.
Here.
Dane Wing. Don't think he was able to get online. I believe he's going to be absent. Tyler Dunn.
Here.
Excellent. Kathy Jacobs.
Here.
Melissa Tobin. Is she online? No, I think she's absent. Patty Gordon.
Here.
Rebecca Lambert.
Here.
Betty Morrow.
Here.
Sean Roderick.
Here.
Kelsey Bowden.
Here.
And David Twitchell.
Here.
Great. I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so before we get started, I just want to remind folks again about our norms. And you have the orange sheet in your folder. So anyone want to volunteer to keep an eye on how we're doing with those norms?
Sure. Sure. Why not?
Thank you again, Kelsey. Are there any citizen comments not related to the budget? No, I don't think anybody's signed up.
No. Check online, see.
Anybody online? Okay, go ahead. No? Okay,
Okay.
seeing none, we'll move on to number 4. Are there any additions or adjustments to the agenda by any board members or the superintendent? Sean?
I don't know if it's not an adjustment. Can I say something?
Go ahead.
I just want to make it very clear. I don't want to hide anything. Next board meeting, there will be discussion. I'm getting calls, emails, confusion on my end. There will be discussion about masks, and I have full intentions to make the same motion I made last time. Not hiding anything. I want that out there. I want to hear from teachers, parents. I want everybody's input. I think this board should have everybody's input, and I wanted to state that on the record tonight. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
Can I make a comment to that as well, really quick? I just want to say, I think it's really important for people to actually reach out and share their opinions and their views, because I think there is a lot of change that is potentially coming down the line in the next couple of weeks. So if you know somebody who wants to have, a say, they can't be here, have them send emails, have them get online. But I think that the hardest part is so many times people just don't even, oh, I didn't know anything was going on. So get the word out so people can actually have a voice. And that being said, I want to hear from teachers as well. I want to hear from teachers. I want to hear from parents. I want to hear from everybody. And the amount of emails I don't feel like has been as great as I would like to see.
Great, thank you. Anyone else? Okay. So our first action item for tonight is approval of the minutes of February 2nd. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the minutes of February 2nd.
I second.
Any discussion?
Everyone good? Right. So Dave Gilman,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Melissa's not here, Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty,
Yes.
and David Twitchell.
Yes,
It is unanimous.
Okay. And we will move on to the budget workshop and we'll start with special ed.
Yes.
Are you going to do anything before that?
No,
Just move right into
we'll
it.
just jump right into it. I know Diane's gonna put up the slideshow because we do have a slideshow, so we'll give her a minute to pull that up. And the slideshow does begin with the similar directives that we've used before, but we're gonna jump right into it. So if you want to go to, I think it's slide 4 for Ryan.
Is it on now?
There we go.
Okay, can everyone hear me okay? I can never tell if the light's on or not. but- So my presentation tonight is pretty straightforward in some ways, but certainly open to questions or any additional information that folks need afterwards. In trying to keep with the team directives that Jay had laid out for us, I'm really looking to make this proposal have little to no increase. And I think in this case, it has no increase in current spending, but it also meets our goals of having to address special education needs for the ongoing and ever-changing world that we live in currently in special education, which has been pretty busy these past few years, but is always pretty busy. And I do like to always put this disclaimer out there. It's not on the slide, but as many of you know, special education is a mandated program. So in theory, what I'm saying to you right now could change if we have a family of 10 move in that all have students that require pretty substantial support. So I say that first just because this is my best thinking based on the information that I know, and in past board reports I've talked about having constant collaboration, coordination with child development services, where we get a lot of our students with IEPs coming in from pre-K programs. Again, that can change if parents and families move from other districts. And also can change if new families move in or students move in and or needs change based on other factors, usually move-ins, but sometimes also based on student needs from year to year. So I just wanted to put that out there in terms of this proposal or this budget addition. We're anticipating pretty similar staffing levels across our 6 schools. And this is based on those transitions I talked about pre-K to K that we know about, also the ones that we know about from 5th grade to 6th grade and from 8th grade to 9th grade and the outgoing seniors. And the one major budgetary addition that I'm proposing tonight is an addition of a readiness skills program teacher. So we have a specialized program at Reedfield Elementary School. We started years ago. It's grown in a lot of ways, which is great. Its current caseload is around 12 students. It's one teacher. There are numerous educational technicians that work extremely hard there. It's probably what I would say is the most challenging program in the district. As you can imagine, students at that developmental age, also with some substantial needs, require a fair amount of supports. And that's a large task for that teacher. So that teacher currently supervises 8 educational technicians. It's one teacher, 12 students on that caseload. The max by state regulations is 15 students. So I'm proposing that we look to split that and hire an additional teacher to help support that teacher in that program and those students as well. In terms of how that would be split, I haven't worked that through with the team just yet. There's some talk of doing it grade wise, K to 2 or 3 to 5, but the student needs certainly will dictate where and how that teacher would be used. But that's my main budgetary addition. But to offset that, I look closely at the budget, and it looks like one of our allocated out of district placement slots is no longer necessary for next year. And so that decrease in the budget would certainly offset the increase that I'm proposing in the teacher for that program. So that is all I have for tonight. But like I said, if folks have questions or need any additional details, I'd certainly be happy to answer that.
Anyone have any questions for Ryan? I do have a question, Ryan, about your staffing at the middle school with the 5th graders coming into 6th grade. Will you have adequate staffing at the middle school to meet the needs of those incoming students that were in the readiness program?
Yes. Yeah, the way, and it certainly helps that the middle school has 3 grade levels. And when we're looking at Reed Field, the readiness skills program, we're going K to 5. So there's a little bit of, it evens itself out a little bit, middle school to high school. And we were lucky enough last year and to have the board support an additional resource room or learning center teacher at the middle school. And that's been great because we've had just this fall, I think we were 25 students up in what moved in this year. And a lot of them came to the middle school. And had we had a current caseload of last year, it was 32 in the spring when I made the proposal, we would have had to split that caseload anyway, because it would have gone over for the resource room teachers, their max is 35. So I would have had to do that anyway. And currently those 2 teachers at the middle school, I would say they're pretty thankful that they were able to get an additional staff person there too.
Great, thank you. Well, okay, thank you, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
I'm going to speak to English language learners and GT. This would normally be something Dr. Karen Smith would present, but I did tell her, given the circumstances and stuff, I said, I think I can handle this, go home tonight, because there's no changes. So that's what I just wanted to cover with you so that you had a current understanding. So English language learners are any, we have to provide services to any student who doesn't, English isn't their first language. And that's something that schools have to have somebody on staff that can provide those services. And it's, again, one of those things, whether you have them or not, they could move in, they could move out, which is what our program has traditionally experienced. So currently we have a 4/10 teacher. That teacher actually teaches pre-K the other part of her time and services our ELL students on that 4/10 time at this point. So right now we're recommended continued current staffing due to the students being in various schools in the district. And of course, this position does service K to 12 students. So it's not just elementary or middle school or high school. She has to work with basically any of those students that come through. It's dependent on the number of students who qualify for the service. Our program, since I've been here, we've had, I think it's 8 or 10 at our high, and we've also had a low of 1 student as well. But again, it's one of those things that students are moving in and out, and that's usually where we experience those needs across students. So going into next year's budget, we are not proposing any changes to ELL. This seems to suit our needs at this time. So that's ELL for you. I'll go right to GT next because again, we're not proposing any changes to that, but just so that you know, the number of students is limited to 10% of the total student population, again, going K to 12. So it's expected to be consistent from year to year, which is a kind of a good thing. Staffing, therefore, is anticipated to remain the same. We currently have 2.2 full-time teachers working K to 12. And again, we are not recommending any budget because again, 10% of our population is a pretty static number and we're able to service based on those needs. We do sometimes have to move the teacher based on the population, where the population is. So In previous years, it's been very elementary based, but it has migrated into the middle and the high school because that's kind of the bubble moving through. So just so that you guys know, they also, amongst those 2.2 positions, they kind of, we structure their schedule to be able to put them where they can best suit the students based on their individual strengths working with those students. So any questions? Of course, David. David?
This has been talked about before, but I don't remember the details. With that state limit, are we leaving any students out that would
We-
qualify or
Right.
should have that support?
Right. There is a screening process that we go through and we do it consistently from year to year. So there are students sometimes that qualify in 1 year and then the next year they actually move off the caseload or they might decide not to participate in the programming. But we have annual screening every year so that we can identify, look at our population and make sure we're getting services to those students.
Thank
you. Yep, of course. Thank-
So just kind of curious along the same lines, I think it's this question is, so what happens to the kids are basically on the border? Are we leaving those kids behind and not pushing them to where they should be at? Because we all know what happens when you get bored in classes.
Right. So one of the things that is part of the screening process is the teacher recommendation. And what we found is if there are students that are kind of on that cusp, but not quite getting there, we make sure we talk with the teachers about those individual strengths that are identified through that screening and make sure they do receive sufficient challenges. So yeah, we keep a very close eye on those cusp children because a lot of times they will move on, give them an extra year or two, and they will move into qualifying for services. So, yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay,
Awesome. So
thank you, Jay.
you're very welcome. I'll turn it over to Diane next to talk about technology.
Hi, everyone. So this year, well, in past years, the past couple of years, we've been able to do a lot of purchasing of technology for our students and using a lot of the grant funding and the ESSER funds and things like that. MLTI happened last year and we were able to get new computers for the middle school and the high school. And so this year there's a year 2 of MLTI and they will pay a portion of the laptops for another grade, just one more grade. Last year they did the portion for 7th and 8th. And then for year 2, you could choose an adjacent grade for that. And so what our plan would be we have one grade in the whole district that still is using older computers. They're actually using the MacBook Airs, the 11-inch MacBook Airs that were, 6 years old. They're 7 years old now. And so our plan would be to take the senior laptops that are new this year, bring those to 5th grade, and then do a purchase for the 6th grade because it has to be an adjacent grade to the 7th and 8th grade, and use the state money that if we don't use it, we lose it, right? So it's, an opportunity to look for that. So we have about 100 students in 6th grade. And so the state portion, the cost for the device is $983.50. And then the state portion would be $459. And so our portion would be about $524.50 per device times 100. That's $52,450 that we would add to the middle school budget. Right now, I have no big technology purchases, no lease purchases going on for any technology because the way we purchased our technology last year was to use all of the ESSER funds to do that. Or not all of the ESSER funds, use some of the ESSER funds for that. So that's put in there right now for 6th grade. So, and then we do have in the budget this year being paid by grant funds, the high school technology media center EdTech. And so I just want to be able to further that, keep that position in the budget for next year. So I thought I would, just bring that up so that everybody remembers that we had that in this year for using the grant funds, but it's not, we would need to decide to move forward with that again. Some of the things that position, the position has not been, how do I say this? So we hired for a full-time, but we were not able to fill for the full-time position. She was only be able to work two days a week because she was coming from 3 days at Reedfield Elementary School. We just filled that position. So now she can be full-time at the high school. Even in the 2 days a week that she's been working at the high school since, what was it, December? She's making incredible, gains and helping the high school staff and students so much. It's been amazing and a real nice transformation for the high school to get the support that they need to be successful and move along with technology. So if you want to talk numbers, I have some numbers for that. If you want to think about that later, you can do that. I'm up to what the board would like to talk about.
Kelsey? Kelsey? Oh, Tyler?
Hi. So I have a couple questions, not so much budget related, they're more just, this seems like the good time to ask it about what the districts continue, like, I understand the Google product is an affordable product, but have we looked into considering a switch to Office 365, which more colleges are switching over to for use in, just for general use, I should say,
So
and what that cost
Tyler-
difference looks like?
Yep. So Tyler, because we're an education institution, we do have access to that, and a lot of our teachers do use that. The caveat with Google is that Google Classroom is all integrated, Google Meets is integrated. And so it's like a more complete package that we're using with that. So we do encourage more of the Google use, I will admit. But that being said, there have been students that have needed, the Office 365, and we've been able to provide that to students as well when they need it.
My other question is, are we looking at offering specifically at the high school level more teaching students on how to make that transition when they go to college or into community college or vocational schools so that it's not as big of adjustment?
I think it's a good point. I don't know of an exact program that we would do that with, but there's been a lot of transition happening with just even in the media center and coordinating with guidance. This week they had seniors coming in and it was all about filling out scholarships. And so I think that really looking at transition times for seniors and actually freshmen coming into the high school, there's been a lot of discussion around that. So I'll take that information back to our high school, middle school tech team And I can report back on specifically what's being done for that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. It's just more like, I know it was something that I struggled when I left Miranda Cook, leaving the Google ecosystem and being forced into Office 365. It took a bit of adjustment just to understand the software, understanding Outlook, the differences between Excel and Sheets and Word and how the file types work. And I think I can't speak for other students, but I think it's definitely something we need to look into.
Thank you for your input.
Kelsey, did you have a question?
Yeah, I'm sorry if you already said the same, but I wanted to make sure I understood what the cost per device, the 983.50 number was for. Is that for the Google software that we're talking about only, or is that also to purchase the more devices?
It's actually the devices. It's the MacBook Airs that we purchased for 6 through 12 this year.
Yep.
Like it's the same device, so it fits right in. And so if you can sort of think about what will happen is these 6th graders will just keep those devices going right up through. They don't change year to year. And I think that's a beautiful thing because it's your device that you need to take care of. You know what I mean? It built in that you got to take care of these because you're going to be using these for the next 4 or 5
Sure.
years, you know, so.
So I guess my question would be then is, why did you settle on that device for that cost? And if there are any equal like devices that do cost less?
So that was a decision that was made by the tech team and the schools as we looked at the different devices that were being offered. So this year, to choose a totally different device for 6th grade to use is pretty disruptive to, you know, the whole, like, you have to think about the tech support for that. You have to think about the teachers in multi-grade classrooms. You have to think about how students will feel getting a Chromebook when the rest of the school has, you know, MacBook Airs. I mean, there's just a lot to consider with that. We sort of made that decision as a school and a district moving forward last year. So that's why I would recommend staying with the same devices.
Okay. I just don't know anything
Yep.
about technology.
That's okay.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate the question, actually. Jude?
I actually have a couple of questions. So the laptops that are being sold right now, are those these laptops that have been around for 6 years, 7 years? So you guys have already decided to sell them pre-knowing that we've approved or not approved to move forward with
I'm not
purchasing these?
selling the ones that are in 5th grade right now.
So they're older ones. So the ones that are being sold are older ones. that are-
Yes, and
not
5th
even
grade
being
has
used.
those exact same ones.
Okay, and then so what happens with the money that is like coming in from those?
So there's been, it becomes sort of like district money. We bought things like I can give you a report, but like district things like Performance Matters or e-collect when we were doing the online forms, that benefits everyone in the district of being able to not have paper signatures on all the paperwork that comes home in the beginning of the year. Permission slips for field trips, all those types of things can all be done online now. That's just like something off the top of my head, but we're looking at like add-ons to Power School that help like track discipline, and there's just a lot of technology kinds of things that benefit everyone in the district.
So I guess my question is more so we can't take the $150 for each one of those computers and knock down that price a little bit. My concern is we're going to spend this money on these new computers and say a year and a half, maybe 2 years from now, most people aren't using Apple anymore, you know, and then what? Because I think there is a huge push, like Tyler mentioned, to really get out of the Apple field. You're really narrowed down in Apple,
Well,
you know, and
Office
iMac, whereas Windows
365
Open.
Office 365 works on Apples. So that's not the same, so.
But
But-
there's a lot of cheaper options if you go towards Windows versus sticking in the Apple realm, so to speak. Right?
And I think that's like the age-old question. I've been, when MLTI first started, I was a teacher at the time, and exactly what you're saying, Jade, is the discussion, and that was like 12 years ago. Apple versus Windows or Chromebooks or et cetera. It's just kind of, as a district, we need to decide what we want to do. And I feel that the Apple product is a more robust product that allows the students more opportunities within the work that they do. Chromebooks are great, but think of Chromebooks as just accessing the internet. And it is a little bit limiting in terms of what you can do. So when we purchase these or go into a lease purchase like this or a purchase, this was a 4-year commitment. So every 4 to 5 years, we have that option to kind of look at it again and say, do we stay with Apple or do we make changes? So again, I'm very honest, I'm a very pro Apple person for education. It feels good because of the transition from iPad to laptop. And then when they get to high school, they're doing, like, it's been a seamless transition. We've set up our networks to be able to work with, the OS, the operating system, and all that kind of stuff. But it's something that comes up every 4 to 5 years. We're going to be having those discussions. I think you're right, though, but I think there's going to be another discussion about it.
I
So,
just know there's a
Yeah.
lot of programs that
Yeah.
don't run and aren't compatible with
Right.
Apple, and that's my concern. And going forward, I think when you go into colleges and things like that, kids aren't gonna have the ability to transition very well outside of an Apple product.
So last year we had fifth grade students had some Chromebooks and some laptops, and because of the availability of the 11-inch MacBook Airs, when we upgraded, they all went to the 11-inch MacBook Airs, but they were doing fine on the Chromebooks as well. So the thing that I would remind you is, so we've had 6 years with these MacBook Airs, and they're still worth and run fantastic. And we're selling them to benefit the community right now. There's a lot of districts that when they made the transition, they just went to a remarketer, which is a lot less work. My team right now is burnt out. We're tired. We are cleaning all of those, chargers and making them look good so that we can sell them to our communities and that everybody gets to benefit from these. And so I think that's a point that we all need to remember, is that they retain their value very well, and we're making some benefits for that. So
I just had another quick question. Does this number include like insurance too? So if
Yes, it does.
If a parent drives over a kid's laptop, God forbid, does the parent pay for that replacement? or
well,
would
if
insurance
it's negligence, like people break things on purpose and that sort of thing, then there is like $100 like use fee fee to help cover, but you never pay more than $100. And then if it's accidental, then it just gets repaired.
So Diane, I just have a quick question about the EdTech position. What would the increase in the budget be? Do you have that number?
Yeah, Mandy and I were working on those numbers. Actually, Mandy was actually. And so the cost of the position is $44,500. And then because we have remaining in this school year, because we didn't get to be full-time until after vacation, there's 2,100 remaining, so that we could put that
1,000.
2,100, 21,000.
21,000, sorry. That's what I meant, sorry.
Thank you.
21,000 remaining for this year. And so that can be put toward next year for the position.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Diane.
Thanks.
So is there any board discussion on any of the items that we've heard or anything from last time? Jay, did you have anything that we wanted to?
Nope, not at this point. No, that's, I think we've covered just the basics for tonight. So we have a lot more coming. I'll be very honest.
Any discussion? Okay. Tyler, you all set?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, so let's, okay, good. So the next thing on the agenda is for us to have a discussion about reestablishing the RSU. Oh, whoops, sorry. Citizen comments regarding the budget. Sorry, I didn't mean to skip over that. Are there any citizen comments regarding the budget? Okay, seeing none, now we'll go into the discussion about the reestablishing the communications committee. So in your packet, you have a draft, just of some ideas that Jay put together just for us to kind of use as a springboard to start the discussion. So the floor is open.
So survey is done, huh? Dying to hear about it, but, so this was a committee that kind of just fizzled out?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
It ended kind of right, I want to say right as I came on board, it really wasn't functional at that point. So that's what I did is I went back and revisited, and I also did a little research to see if other school committees have communication committees as well, and several do. So it seems like, I think it is an opportune time to bring this back. So that way a lot of you guys have been talking about how do we facilitate communication? Well, that would be the charge basically of this committee, to be able to say, okay, what practices and procedures do we put in place? If we have a specific topic, like you had mentioned, Kelsey, I think that would be like, okay, it may only be 3 or 4 times a year, but if you know you need something, then you call that committee together and say, this is your job, put it together, bring it to the full committee, bring it back to the full board for final approval, and then you can push it out. But it feels like right now it could be a very busy committee, to be quite honest.
Betty?
I think it's a good idea to reestablish this committee.
Rebecca?
I agree too. I think we're always asking what people think, and I think this would be a good idea to kind of develop a strategy to get a hold of that.
Tyler?
I concur, I think, with everybody. I think having been on here now since July, I think that's been kind of the biggest gap that I've always had is like, I know what my personal opinions are, and I know what I think, based on what I had experience from students, and I've talked to some students, but, missing that community input on a lot of things, it makes it difficult to vote sometimes because I know what I think is best, but I don't know what the community wants or needs. And I think it's something that all districts need to work on, but us especially.
Thank you, Tyler. Sean?
I think it's a great idea. Communication's key.
So can I just see a thumbs up for consensus if we want to move forward with this committee? Okay, I see consensus. So we had some folks volunteer to start off with this. Do we want to continue with those same folks? I think it was Kelty and Sean and Patty. Who was the person? Tyler?
Me.
I think it's
Tyler.
Yeah.
Tyler. So if you folks want to take charge, sure, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thank you.
I will have Donna reach out to all of you guys and we will get we'll probably have to do a couple of meetings through March, April and May just to get ourselves set up and stuff. But I think we can do that pretty quick because I think we've got some good ideas already. It's just a matter of formalizing it. So I'll ask Donna to reach out and we will get a couple of meetings on the books ASAP here.
Is it going to be meeting by Zoom?
You guys' call, we could meet in. person if you
Preferably.
want.
Because if it's by Zoom, then
Yeah.
then I'd be willing to join the committee, but another in-person might be able to.
Because we could actually do what we do as a board and have a Zoom, an online Zoom, and whoever wants to meet in person could meet in person. That's certainly something you could facilitate.
Okay, you good? Thank you
So,
all for
Awesome.
those of you that volunteered to do this. I think this is really going to be important and helpful for us to be able to reach out and really hear what our constituents are thinking and wanting us to do. So thank you for offering to do that. Okay, so the next thing is to go into executive session. Do I have a motion?
I move we go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056D, labor contract discussions between the RSU 38 Board of Directors and the Marana-Cook Area Schools Staff Association.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I do have to vote. Dave Gilmay,
Yes.
Jade,
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
Kathy,
Yes.
Patty,
Yes.
Rebecca,
Yes.
Betty,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Kelty.
Yeah.
And David.
Yes.
All right, we are moving unanimously into executive session. Those people who are online, Diane McGregor is going to open a waiting room. You're certainly free to wait, and when the board comes out of executive session, we will bring back into the main room anyone that is in a waiting room. And we'll take just a couple minutes to do that before we begin.
Is everyone back? Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor, do we have to do a roll call?
Don't even need to do
We're
it.
adjourned.
Yeah.
Thank you.